pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. So, Council, following approval, Pledge of Allegiance, we have approval of the agenda. I have no changes to make tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I would move we approve this evening's agenda.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Council. First item up is a proclamation declaring the town of Edgewood as a Purple Heart town in the state of New Mexico. Mr. Abrams, you want to speak to this?
I don't know exactly what to say. It's already been a little bit of a solemn beginning to our meeting. I've been asked to read this proclamation, so I'm going to make an attempt and see if I can make it all the way through without getting choked up. It's going to be kind of hard. A proclamation of the town of Edgewood, New Mexico, in honor of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest military decoration still in present use and was initially created by George Washington in 1782 as the badge of military merit, and whereas the Purple Heart was the first American Service Award made available to the common soldier and is awarded to any member of the United States Armed Forces wounded or killed in combat with a declared enemy of the United States. Whereas the mission of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, chartered by an act of Congress, is to foster an environment of goodwill among the combat wounded veteran members and their families, to promote patriotism, to support related legislative initiatives, and most importantly, to make sure we never forget the sacrifices made by those so decorated. Whereas Edgewood has a highly decorated veteran population, including Purple Heart recipients, and whereas there have been former Edgewood residents who made the ultimate sacrifice in giving their lives in the cause of freedom, and there are combat wounded veterans who currently reside within the town of Edgewood. And as Purple Heart awareness, or as Purple Heart awardees who contribute to their community in countless ways, and whereas the town of Edgewood falls within the purview of Chapter 1966 of the New Mexico Military Order of the Purple Heart and wishes to pledge its strong support, honor, and gratitude for this noble organization, and for those who put their lives at risk in service to their country and fellow citizens. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the town of Edgewood, New Mexico, that honor and gratitude be bestowed upon the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 1966, recognizing the town of Edgewood as a Purple Heart town in the state of New Mexico.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have Mr. Pete Comstock here from the chapter, and so I would like to invite him up to say a few words about this. And then I did want to ask if we need to vote on this. We can. If not, maybe we can just take a picture up front.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sir, speak. Let's go to the microphone there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilwomen, councilmen, and the esteemed staff to my right. It's a pleasure. I'm Pete Comstock. I'm the commander for the state of New Mexico. I'm also chapter commander of 1966 in Albuquerque, which we have members out here. Albuquerque was the first Purple Heart city. There's been several since. I'm glad you're considering doing this. And I want to take, I've been about and done this for a few years and for a while. That's one of the finest proclamations I've ever heard. Outstanding composition. And obviously it touches your heart very deeply with, I'm sure, some people that you've lost and that you know about. And so anyway, I have two things that I brought. One, I brought a copy of the sign for Albuquerque. Obviously, you put Edgewood on the top. And I'll leave it with whoever it is over on the right that handles this. I have the name of the company that makes the signs. They're in Albuquerque. So you can order however many of them you want when the time comes. So if you'll allow me to step forward, I'll show you the sign and present it to the audience.
Very nice.
I'm sure you can see it. And you know, the interstate is Purple Heart Highway that runs coast to coast. Yours truly was involved in getting those signs for our state, making that happen. And thank you all for showing up. Are there any Purple Heart recipients in the audience?
We do have one.
Where? Right here. Fantastic. Any of you that are so inclined later on to say that you are, you're welcome to join us at any time. Anybody have any questions? Mayor?
Counselors?
Mayor, I just wanted to ask that anyone who represents a recipient or is a recipient in Mr. McGill's case, if we could come up here with the sign and with you, Mr. Comstock, for a quick picture, if that would be all right. And then I noticed Mr. Ring, former Councilor Ring, had his hand up.
I would like to say something. Some of you, although you're very close to him, do not know this about him. Councilor John Abrams lost his father in the Vietnam conflict. I know he's proud of his country and proud of the Purple Heart recipients and everything, but I also know he did without a father for a long time. So I wrote a couple of articles about this back when I was blogging. I don't know if they're still up anywhere or not, but thank you, John. Thank your father for his sacrifice. He was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He was shot down.
Thank you.
We-
One of the things I'll say to you, now you're back to microphone, that's right. I apologize. I'm used to being here. One of the things I'll say to you that most people don't know, any direct lineage of a Purple Heart recipient is eligible to join our chapter as an associate member. You can do everything we do except vote when it comes time for election of officers. Love to have you attend at any time, and any way we can help you with some of the things that go on inside of you that I can tell. I'm pretty good at that, been doing it a long, long time. So if you're a son or a daughter or a grandchild or whatever, you're welcome at a Purple Heart chapter any place in the country, anytime, for any assistance you might need. So that's something the average person just doesn't know that we have. So, and I wasn't aware. I knew it was tugging at your hearts. I just didn't know it was your dad. And that tugs at my heart now that I know that. Lost a lot of my men when I was there in Vietnam. So here we go. God, you don't look old enough to have had a dad in Vietnam. How old are you?
Over 60.
Oh, that's easy. Anyway, any other questions? Let me leave. Who do I want to leave this with?
With
What do you order?
the clerk here.
Doris over here.
Do you want to come up?
Thank you for your service, sir.
I don't know.
Thank you, my brother. God bless you. Thank you, Mayor.
You bet.
Y'all? Do you want to get a picture of this?
I think I'm going to pass. I'm not exactly photographic right now.
Or you gonna do it?
I'm going to pass, thank you. I just
1, 2, 3. Get a couple over here. 1, 2.
By the way, anybody that doesn't know the address of 117A, which is where I went, that's your fire station down the road. It's not here.
oops.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you
I
very
appreciate
much.
you very much. That was an outstanding read. I know it was hard for you, but appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you.
Chief. The next item's yours, recognition of Officers Walker and Bell.
Sarge, you want to come on up, and then if the family coming out, we're gonna. Here, we can just kind of. Mayor, Council, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have them turn this way here, so if you guys can face out towards the audience. Right on up there with the officer. Didn't realize there was gonna be this big of a crowd. Sarge, if you'll go up there with them too.
Oh, this is great.
And number 8 grade.
Did you say number 22 grandchild?
We're expecting number 22 grandchild, and we are expecting the 8th grade.
Wow.
So, with these programs, they need a lot of children.
A lot of children.
Yeah, this is only, I only have 2 of my children, of my surviving children here. We had 6.
Okay.
So I lost one to CI.
Okay. Well, Mayor, Council, members of the public, I'll read this really quick and then I'll pass this over if anybody would like to say anything as well. So I wanted to take a minute to let you know that a member of our community reached out to me thanking you for your service. In an email dated January 14, residents, before you hear, describe your life-saving actions and their gratitude for this. So, Officer Walker and Officer Bell, I want to thank you to the officer who responded to my 911 call on Thursday, January 7th, around 2:05 p.m. My husband was in full cardiac arrest, and the officer assisted me in performing life-saving CPR until the EMTs arrived. Like, I even get nervous for you here. I'm like, I'm not used to having everybody here. No, I'm sorry. No.
I remember it, he doesn't.
So, but it goes on to state that it saved my husband's life. Today, he underwent a quadruple bypass surgery, and his current prognosis is excellent. Officers, if you wouldn't mind coming on up, we'll get you guys in here too. So, I do not know the officer's name, but would like to thank him and know that he is our hero, and he is the opportunity to thank him once we are out of the hospital. Please thank him for me. So we tracked him down, and these were the officers that responded. So I want to pass this over to you.
I slightly recognize you.
But ultimately, after receiving this, I located the call, and both of you, Officer Walker and Officer Bell, were on scene. I reviewed the report, and I saw what a professional and caring staff the town has on display in you two. Your service that day is merely a glimpse into the daily activity that all our officers serving our area do on a daily basis. I want to say thank you personally for a job well done. So I want to pass this over.
Well, someone was watching out after us that day because I came home from shopping and found my husband unresponsive, and I called 911. And I will tell you, I've never had CPR training until today, and I passed. But I passed the crash course that morning, and I just followed what they told me to do. And I don't know how long, it wasn't that long, and Officer Walker was there telling me that I was doing a good job, which is very reassuring when you're on the floor with your husband and doing staying alive, breathe. And he gave me a lot of confidence that I was doing okay, the best I could. And he stayed and took over so I could give him a breath. I've kissed this man an awful lot more lately. And until the EMTs arrived, which was, I now know, 5 minutes from the time of the call to the time of the EMTs. And though my wonderful EMTs aren't here tonight, they were marvelous too. And they kept me calm. I know, I mean, yelled at him, he couldn't die yet, he had too many toys he hadn't played with, and I mean that. You're welcome to come play with his toys. I give you permission, he's got some really nice toys. And he had, we thought he was going to have bypass surgery that night. He was 100% blocked on the Widowmaker, 78% on another one, and 80% on another one. In other words, the fact that he's standing up here right now is a miracle, and thanks to these gentlemen and the fine EMTs and firemen who aren't here tonight. He had not 3 but 4 bypass surgery a week to the day after his heart attack. and was released by a surgeon at 5 weeks out. So I just want to say thank you. You truly gave me, just made me feel calm. So thank you much. Any of the kids want to say anything? Yeah, you want to say something?
I actually don't remember the event. I don't remember much from the 2 weeks after that. But I do really appreciate you guys and the job you do here. You guys especially because you were there on the scene, but the rest of you too, because your presence has made this a safer community, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And we both come from police officers.
Backgrounds.
I'm not a person of many words, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Arnie? You're good.
I really appreciate what you guys have done for our family. I really appreciate what you guys have done for our community. I really do appreciate what you guys will do in the future. I just hope that you guys will have good luck and have good lives for the rest of your days.
Thank you.
I hope if you guys ever have such problems, that someone's there to take care of you too.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to give the opportunity to the family to talk too. So before we sit down, we'll take some photos.
Oh, okay.
But it's one thing up here to stand up here and sing their praises or read something off pretty easy, but whenever I have the family in front of me, it's a little different, I'm finding out tonight. So to see the results of this, that's great.
This is what happens when you have people who are able to get there and able to do their jobs. And like we said, it was 5 minutes. My 911 call lasted 5 minutes. I went back and looked at it, and that was the response time. And you two were here before the EMTs got there. So it was, I would say it's a miracle, and you're part of my miracle.
Thank you.
Mayor and Chief, is former Councilor Ring still back there? He is. I just suggest that he can come up and take the picture with you all because he's the founder of the Edgewood Police Department, and I'm very grateful to him for that.
I didn't do anything.
Come on up.
I'm going to put this back over here so we can take a couple of photos.
Actually, it's quite a story. I'll be as brief as possible. When we first started, we had a sort of a citizens patrol, and there's 3 of us, I believe, or 4 of us that started, and I'm a retired state police officer. So after that, the state police agreed to police our town for a while until we could form our own police department. Luckily, we eventually was able to steal, beg, borrow, whatever, Chief Crow, and he brought a lot of people along with him, and I could not be prouder of our police department than what I am. God bless you guys. Thank you for everything you do, and this is not a detention. No, I'm just teasing you. Thank you very much. And thank you, folks, for coming out and thanking them. That means a lot to them, I can tell you.
It means a lot to us.
Yeah, sure.
Did you want to say anything? Sure. Thank you.
We've got a great mix shop here. He's got all kinds of tools. Do not be afraid to come down and say hey.
Watching all of that, I'm reminded of something I saw about a World War II battle or something. Maybe you heard it in Vietnam too. Watching that, when uncommon valor was pretty common. So we do have a hell of a police department. Chief, great job to all of you. Next, moving along, then we have the consent agenda. And 2 items tonight are the council meeting minutes from February 26th and March 3rd special meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded
Just
to
sorry.
approve tonight's consent agenda.
Just a quick question for Courtney. Did the change get into the written? Okay, thank you. Just checking.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council. The next item is discussion items, public comment on general matters. First up is Sabine Price.
Good evening to the council. Mr. Abrams, I want to really express my appreciation for the emotions you put into the declaration for the Purple Heart, Edgewood becoming the Purple Heart resident town. And I really appreciate the emotions you showed. That leads me into one thing. Last meeting was very disappointing. And I think with the emotion that Mr. Abrams showed today, which emotions everybody else shared, about the unfortunate comments Mr. Mayor made, I would seriously advise, that such personal attacks should be avoided at any cost, because we're not attacking people that we don't know, and you will cause a lot of hurt to people. And I think that was absolutely unnecessary. And I do think you owe a lot of people an apology for this. But I again appreciate Mr. Abrams showing the emotions that he put into this. Thank you.
Next person up is Janelle Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Mayor, I wanted to applaud you for being so resolute in the face of a lot of personal criticism and criticism against your family. I know how difficult it is. I also want to commend Councilor Hawley and Councilor Abrams for not giving way to requests for you to express an opinion on the EPCOR matter. I would like to remind the entire governing body that the assessor's report has not been released. There are people in the community who are waiting for the results of that report before they go public. One of the reasons they have been hesitant to go public is the behavior of certain members of a community group called CORE. And I'm here tonight to call on CORE to raise their standards of decorum and to cease personal attacks on members of the governing body. Civility goes both ways. I also wanted to comment on the mailer that I received from CORE. And the first thing that struck me about it is it looks an awful lot like a mailer that was sent out attacking candidate Bob Stearley in 2008. It was a nasty personal attack full of unverified assertions and very, very negative. That mailer ended up helping candidate Stearley, and it did not reflect well on the people who sent it. And I would ask, I'm calling on CORE to up the standards of their mailing. The final thing I would like to say is that when a group meets at a private venue, their conduct, the tone of their conversation reflects on the host. And I have heard of some distressing feedback from people who feel that the hospitality of the host venue for the CORE meetings has been abused. and I would ask you to please, please be more civil. There are plenty of issues to engage us. We don't need to go into personal attacks. If you have an assertion, back it up with facts, please.
Next up is Chuck Ring.
I also would like to address the core mailing. I received it a couple of days ago. I'd just like to quickly address a couple of items on here, and then I'll have some things to say as I go along. It says here, at our last meeting, we exposed, that's the word used, many of the misdeeds of our town government. Now, I don't know what those misdeeds are, because as far as I can see, nothing has been exposed yet. There have been some accusations made, but nothing has been proven. In fact, to the contrary, most of what's been alleged has been misproven. Millions in misuse of public funds to benefit a few. We don't have any names, so we don't know who the few are. Extending their terms of office for nearly 2 years without an election. As we go along, you'll learn more about this mechanism, and you'll learn that the fact that the town council passed that, absent one person on the council, saves the town money, and it will continue to save the town money, because in essence, it puts our elections in consort or at the same time as a school board and I think a couple of other entities. Planning the hostile takeover of the EBCOR water system in closed meetings, which could cost us $28,000 and double our water rates. There was a statement by EBCOR that they surveyed 40 people and asked them if they'd be willing to pay $10 more for their water bill if they could clean up the water. Well, I wasn't one of them. Had I have been, I would have said, you dadgum right, I'll pay $10 more a month. And I can count a lot more people that pay $10 more a month. That's all I have to say right now. I will guarantee you that if you stray from a council, mayor, or mayor-council form of government, it will end up costing the taxpayers more money than they want to pay out. And what we have now is a mayor-council form of government. It's worked for us for 20-something years now, and it'll continue to work for us. Are there knots and kinks that need to be worked out? Certainly. But folks, this town is a great town. And it's great because of those who came before you and those who will come after you. It will continue to be great if we don't change our government into a manager-commission form of government, which is a very costly enterprise. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Next up is Cheryl Hupperts.
We donated our time to that. He just didn't say so.
Oh, okay. That brings us to William Bassett.
The Chuck Ring and the lady that talked before him said everything I have to say, okay? I support them 10,000%. Praise you guys for the stress you're under and running the town with this negative core operation. Okay, and Linda Burke, praise Linda Burke for the hard work she does, okay?
Next up is Susan Simons.
This just struck me as a spur of the moment. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but maybe we should consider renaming what is the road that's out here that goes down to the courthouse and the animal control facility. Maybe Howard Calkins Road or Way. The city of Moriarty did that when their mayor passed away soon after I moved here. So it might be something to consider. I think since it's in the town, it is in the town's ability to do that without checking with anybody.
Thank you. Nobody else has signed up. Does anybody else wish to speak that hadn't signed up? Powers?
Good evening. My name is Jerry Powers. I really wasn't planning on speaking, but I was listening to some of the comments regarding CORE. I'm a member of CORE. And we're having our meeting tomorrow night at Legacy Church at 6 o'clock. I would invite everybody here that spoke to come to that meeting and see for yourself what sort of information that we're presenting. I also want to say that we've put our money where our mouth is. We filed a legal action, and the judge will decide. You can't file a legal action based on aspersions or rumors. It has to be facts. So we will present our facts in that venue and let the judge decide. But the information that we'll present tomorrow night is for public consumption to educate the public and so you can ask questions. And unlike some of the meetings here, it is a true open forum. So we'll have up to an hour of open discussion and questions and answers. So I would encourage you all to come and share your comments and doubts about it, what you're seeing there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item then is matters from the councilors. First up is Councilor Jaramillo.
Thank you. First off, the moment of silence and the prayer reminded me that a while back I did receive information from the Municipal League in Randy Van Vleck that it is allowable for us to start with an invocation. And as I go around and present audits to various local governments around the whole state, many of them do start just in that way. Most of the time it's, more of a generic prayer, but it is allowed. And so if there's no objection by council, I thought that was something that we could start adding to the agenda. If you'd like more information on it, I have the information from the attorney from the Municipal League that I could pass along to you. But it's not an impossible feat to do. And like I said, we see that around the state all the time at meetings. Next, I just wanted to thank Andrea and Carla for meeting with me on the youth programming. We have many youth programming activities scheduled every single month by the library, of course. A lot of great things going on. Santa Fe County has youth programming, and then we're checking into a couple of other things that we may be able to do with those funds that I've been mentioning that we received last year. So Carla's working on that, and we'll see where that goes. And then I asked that once we have the information that it be brought to council, just so that council can give input and make a decision on if that's the direction we want to go with those funds. I did advocate for trails, landscaping, and bike park that Councilor Abraham had brought up in the past as well to the legislature, and I saw that money was vetoed with a lot of other capital project money, unfortunately. So there's a couple of other avenues, one called Safe Routes to School. One of the things that's important to me is that the kiddos that are going down to the middle school have, a safe place to walk and bike. And one of the school board members of MESD had approached me on that as well. So I'm hoping to collaborate with them and see what we can do for that, even though we didn't get funding. Again, I think there's a lot of volunteers that would be willing to help with that, but just to keep our kids safe. And there's possibly funding out there as well. And that's, that's what I have for tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Abraham.
I have a couple things. last meeting, I had brought forth and handed out to all the council members a copy of the personnel policy, and thought it was going to be on the agenda this time for discussion. I think I would like to look at it for updates. I would like to, since my request didn't kind of follow through this time, I would like to, Mayor, I know you have said that if we kind of poll the council, is anybody interested in looking at the personnel policy for updates or changes or anything like that? And see if we want it on another agenda. I would ask that council talk about that tonight. If anybody's interested in it, did you look at it? Did you have any comments or questions? Do you feel like it needs change? Do you think we should ignore it?
I'm okay with bringing it on an agenda.
I'd like to see what you have in mind before we actually bring it onto an agenda, but
Okay.
I'm not seeing much. Maybe there's a few little wording bits here and there, but I don't see anything horribly wrong with the current document, so.
Well, yeah, but any changes need to be brought forth, is the only thing. I would like to talk about, when and where things are published and those kinds of things to make sure we're getting the best qualified employees. I know we've been looking for a wastewater clerk for a very long time without much success. And then there were the comments about the HR person. And then there's some things here about bringing, doing surveys for pay. And I know we have not had any kind of salary update since 2015. And I know, that needs to be done. And so there are just some things, we look at everything else. I just thought we could look at this and bring it forth for discussion.
As far as my opinion, I did review it, and I didn't see anything that needed changing. We have not, we have updated that pretty recently, that policy, so I didn't see any big glaring changes that needed to occur.
Okay. All right, then I will drop that one. The next thing I have is, back in 2016, we had decided not to have an attorney present at our meetings. We were short on money and a bunch of different things. So it was decided at that time to save money, we would no longer have an attorney present monthly. Well, at that time, it was quoted that in the previous 4 years, we had spent almost $450,000 on attorneys, and so we should be saving that money. Well, after just recently, I asked how much money have we spent in the most current 4 years, and I come to find out we spent $123,338.68 in 2016. In 2017, we spent $62,056.27. In 2018, we spent $72,864.68. In 2019, we spent $99,244.95. And so far, for fiscal year 2020, we've spent $66,999.46 for a total of $424,504.04. With that, I think we could afford to have an attorney present at one meeting a month, because I know I often have questions, and then when they come up, I don't always get the answers. I've been asking for an attorney to come and talk to us for the last 2 meetings, once since we've been served a subpoena, and I still have not had any legal advice at all as a member of the governing body. So I do understand that maybe something is in the works, and we're working on getting a special meeting, but at this point, I still do not have any legal advice. And so I have a concern about that. I would again, so an email was sent out to see if council was interested in bringing that resolution back to have an attorney here monthly. I never did get a response. What was council's feedback on that? Are they interested or not?
Mayor, Council, it's not on the agenda, so there was not a majority that were interested.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilor Abrams?
Mr. Mayor, as I said earlier this evening, I would like to bring a resolution forward dedicating a day to former Mayor Howard Calkins. It would probably be best if we were to pick a day. Whatever day that would be, I don't know. I would like to pick a day certain in the future.
What about the day that, didn't he do a poker draw something?
That might be
Is that
an
him?
appropriate day.
That would be the day.
Howard Calkins.
We'll have to research that.
So we need to research that and pick that day. I think it's upcoming still. I believe it was in April. Or it was in November? I thought it was in April.
Back.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because maybe it went through the courts for a while.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Councilor Jaramillo, you had mentioned prayer in the beginning of a meeting. I would be really, really, really careful, because not everyone has the same set of beliefs, and not everyone has beliefs. And it would probably behoove this council to keep our feet out of hot water as best we can. I know that we can have a benediction of some sort. That's pretty much been said. Even some of the state legislatures have those kinds of things at opening. It's usually done by an outside person, not by someone on the council, and not by the same person every time. So there are some very, very, very careful considerations, I believe, that have to be made before we make a decision like that. Something else that's probably on a few folks' minds, if not everyone in the room, is the announcement today that our state is in a healthcare emergency, and that certain kinds of meetings are being asked to be curtailed. Meetings of people over 25 people are being asked to be either postponed or canceled. Those of you who know that I work for the university, I would like to make sure that everybody knows the university is definitely taking this very, very seriously. And a lot of plans are being made and put in place, including technology, which I'm responsible for, to ensure that the spread of this virus doesn't get more out of hand. One of the things that was emphasized in the governor's address today was make phone calls, don't go to your doctor. Call your doctor first. Don't show up at his office, because then you've just contaminated his office if you happen to have the virus. Or if someone has had the virus, you might walk into it. There is a state hotline for phone calls. They are putting medical personnel at the disposal of that hotline. If you don't feel well, if you have been or think you may have been exposed, I would encourage you to make that phone call. I don't know how that affects this council. I don't know how our future meetings might be affected. But I would highly suggest that we consider curtailing 2 meetings a month for one. Perhaps it'll be in a much longer meeting. I would suggest that that meeting occur on the 3rd Wednesday as would be normal, or fourth Wednesday, sorry. Yeah, that's changed. The fourth Wednesday, so that we can do our monthly bills and reconcile, have our bills reconciled and basically pass our monthly budget. I really think that we will be able to see through this in a relative short period of time. I'm thinking the end of May, probably we will see some relief from what's happening here as the weather warms, God willing. And if anybody else has any ideas about what we might do to help not spread this thing, please let me know.
All right. This is coming up quickly on March 21st. I just want to let everyone know that the town is sponsoring a community cleanup day, and there will be dumpsters available at the soccer field park to accept your spring cleaning waste. So again, that's March 21st from 9 until 5. One other announcement I have has to do with a gardening series that will be held on Saturdays starting March 21st. There's a series of 5 more classes starting March 21st and then every other Saturday. And this will be at the Bethel Community Storehouse in Moriarty. It's a Seed to Supper vegetable gardening series, 10:30 until noon. All classes are free. They're going to discuss starting with healthy soil, planting your garden, caring for the growing garden, and things like that. So we'll have flyers available, and you can call the office if you need more information. That's it.
Matters from Clerk Treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Mayor, Council, just want to give you an update on the IRS audit. So we did have our entrance conference, and we did go over it, and the primary reason for the audit was a transposition error on the IRS's side. So when we submit our quarterly 941s, apparently the IRS, they scan that cover sheet and then they compile that into their computer. Well, on our fourth quarter for 2018, our payroll was approximately $377,000 and some number. And when they scanned it in, their system put it in as $877,000. So there was a $500,000 difference, and that was the big red flag for them. But so they admit to that, but they're still here. They're still going to conduct the audit, kind of go through all of our procedures, making sure we're in compliance. So, are things tax exempt? Are they not? They are, however, from their initial look, they've said they're not going to go back 1 year and forward another year. They said everything looks good on our payroll end with that respect. We did receive a CP 2100A letter for 2018, and what that one is on the 1099s, and there was 7 1099 forms where the the tax identification number didn't match the vendor on the W-9 they gave us, and it was one of them was something as simple as, or actually the majority of them were, there was 7 of them, sorry, but it was something as simple as when we put them into our system, we put them in as their main name or their not their DBA, or vice versa, or our system, if you forget to put the dash in, it won't include that, and it just throws the number out of whack. But all those were quickly resolved, so there's not an issue with our AP. There's really not an issue with our payroll, but like I said, they're still going to go through the motion and finish the audit for that one. So we'll get you more information when we have it. He also did bring up one issue that he did find, and it kind of pertains to the police department and their Social Security election that they held to get out of Social Security. Apparently, the town, when we incorporated, did not file a Social Security 218 agreement, and that's the agreement that gives the town the authority to withhold Social Security tax and lets the town opt into it. So he couldn't find anything on his end through his records. He's checking with PARA because they're the custodian of record for the 218 agreements for the state. It doesn't look like they have anything, so if that is the case, what we'll have to end up doing is come back and file air modification 218 agreement, which essentially would allow us to opt into Social Security and make it retroactive for everyone that's worked here. And then with respect to the police department, we would just exclude them from that agreement. So kind of win-win for both, because they've chosen to opt out. Everyone else, I mean, it's technically right now we shouldn't be paying it, but he said just go ahead, continue paying. And then with respect to the police, once we do this election and get this submitted, the officers can request reimbursement for up to 3 years, and the town can as well for their contributions. We're still waiting to hear back from Santa Fe County for a date to meet with them and to meet with the county manager to figure out the dispatch services. And as soon as we find that out, Councilor Abrams will clue you in so you can, I mean, you have the technical know-how so we can have that discussion with them. And that's all I have right now.
Mayor, question for Mr. Torres. I received the Census Day call to action, and I think it came to everyone's email, but essentially they're just asking this iCount New Mexico for us governing body members to commit to certain activities to encourage a complete count on Census Day, like providing Wi-Fi for people to get the word out to organizations in our community. And I thought some of these things were really good, and I would be willing to, volunteer to spread the word about the census. But I was wondering, are we doing anything as a town for the Census Day?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So we have the Tanya Mortensen and Tim Dvorak. They're actually kind of the town's liaison for the census, but we also plan to have several computers dedicated for the census in the library. Going to put, once we get the information from the Santa Fe County liaison, we're going to put the stuff up on our website just to make sure we get an accurate count.
Yeah, Ms. Mortensen's been working with them for most of the last year.
Okay, great. Well, if she needs anything as far as getting the word out to churches or nonprofits or anything, I can help with that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
No more there, then I'll take up matters from the mayor. And tonight, as we heard already from Councilor Abrams, coronavirus is coming at us hard and fast. We had a teleconference with the governor's office and the Secretary of Health on Monday afternoon, and they told us about what the plans were for stuff. At that time, of course, there were still no confirmed cases of the coronavirus here in New Mexico. That changed today. That's why she gave that press conference and stuff. And she set out some of the stuff they're already sort of doing. She did declare a public health emergency. No state employees are allowed to travel out of state for work. The public is advised to avoid non-essential travel to affected areas out of state. The state will be canceling large events through at least April. The Gathering of Nations has been postponed. The governor does advise residents to not attend public gatherings such as church, neighborhood meetings, etc., in order to minimize exposure. And they do have a toll-free hotline available 24/7 to the public, and it's 855-600-3453 if you have any concerns that you may have been exposed to coronavirus. Excuse me. At this time, the Department of Health is not advising that any schools close. I have an update from the Moriarty schools here I'll give in a minute. They're working on that. Again, it's a fluid situation, so what you hear tonight may change rapidly. And the Department of Health is urging residents to exercise caution in visiting relatives if they're living in a nursing home. That's proven to be a bad spot for transmittal of the virus. Let's see. That was that one. Yeah, remain home and self-isolate if you feel you're sick. Avoid all non-essential travel to affected out-of-state areas. avoid large public gatherings if you're a high-risk individual. And as far as dates on it, about like Councilor Abrams said, Governor and the Department of Health have directed state government and are advising local governments across New Mexico to cancel events with large crowds through at least the end of April. Of course, the Powwow of Nations has been postponed. Councilors, one thing that hit our radar early was the Easter egg hunt out here. It's scheduled there for early April. That would be within that time frame. This one comes to us from the New Mexico Municipal League. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has canceled all activities at the state capitol building due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Therefore, Bill Fulgenetti's service at the Capitol Rotunda this Friday, March 13th has been canceled and will be rescheduled at a later date. The visitation is still scheduled tomorrow, Thursday, March 12th at the Elks Lodge, 1615 Old Pecos Trail. The next items then do come to us from the Moriarty Edgewood School District. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll give you kind of a rundown of it. In a Dear MSD Families and Community, in a proactive effort, the Moriarty Edgewood School District has decided to postpone all student field trips and parent-family events based on recommendations from the State of New Mexico Governor and Department of Health. This includes class field trips, talent shows, elementary traveling, team basketball, and evening events. We understand the decision will come as a disappointment to many, but it is the district's responsibility to protect our school community as best we can from unnecessary risk. This postponement will extend until further notice. The district has also suspended all out-of-state travel for staff and students from March 12th through May 31st. District officials will continue to closely monitor the situation and potential impact of coronavirus and provide updates as information becomes available. More information regarding activities sanctioned through the New Mexico Activities Association, such as athletics, FFA, and JROTC, will be provided as is communicated to district officials. They do caution MESD students and families to take precautions if they have to travel, especially during their upcoming spring break. The district also sent out to staff roughly the same thing, that they're going to suspend all district-sponsored out-of-state staff and student travel from March 12th through May 31st. And we're going to continue to closely monitor potential impact of coronavirus on our community. The virus is spreading across parts of the nation, resulting in cancellation of events and gatherings. And then just says take extra precaution with traveling, washing hands, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff coming down on that. Like I say, kind of in a hurry. If we learn something, we'll transmit it to you as fast as we get it. Then I do have a bit of non-coronavirus news. And today, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham did sign the capital outlay bill. It's been a roller coaster of a day for those of us waiting to see if our capital outlay projects would survive the governor's veto pen, and I have a bit of good news. Even with her earlier proclamation saying a majority of the projects on the capital outlay bill served by general funds would be vetoed so that the funds could be returned to the state's general fund, our capital outlay appropriation for the wastewater treatment plant was not vetoed, and we will in fact be receiving $915,000 for wastewater treatment plant improvements. Based on the fact this project was the #1 priority on our ICIP list this year, I did spend some time during the legislative session speaking to people in the governor's office about the importance of the project, and I was encouraged by the commitment they gave us, not just for getting the funding, but also for some additional funding. So that's good news. We didn't get entirely cut out of today's events. And hopefully we'll be able to put that to good use and help fix that plant up further. That's all I've got tonight. that, we can move on to our action items. First up is item A, discussion, consideration, and action on resolution number 2020-04, a resolution authorizing the town of Edgewood to apply for the New Mexico Department of Transportation 2020 annual hardship sale. And councilors, so what this is they've sent out, like they always do, the thing about the dates and times for the hardship sale coming up. And we have to submit a letter of justification, a resolution of certification, and an equipment wish list. They need that in by March 31st, 2020. From there, it goes up the line, and they decide who gets chosen or not to participate in it.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we pass Resolution 2020-04 authorizing the town of Edgewood to apply for the New Mexico Department of Transportation 2020 annual hardship sale.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second to approve authorizing the town of Edgewood to apply for the New Mexico Department of Transportation 2020 annual hardship sale.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a couple questions before we go.
Go ahead.
First of all, do we have a list? Because I know we had some wishes that kind of got thrown in the proverbial circular file today by the governor's pen.
Right.
So I'm hoping that even a used motor grader might be on our list.
That and a backhoe and a sweeper and maybe another trailer. James has been looking stuff over and trying to figure out what he would like to have the most, and that's at kind of the top of his list.
Hopefully we can find a motor grader that's a little bit better off than our old one.
That could be tough. No other questions, then I'll entertain a vote on it. We'll do a roll call. Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Harmione?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Next item then is discussion, consideration, action on resolution number 2020-05, authorizing an application for the 2021 New Mexico Department of Transportation Municipal Arterial Program funds for street and drainage improvements within Edgewood. Council, when you look at this here, the road chosen, Norton and Carla and several of them have been looking at stuff. They thought Frost Road would be the ideal candidate for this. If we can get it, it of course connects other state roads, and it's getting pretty chewed up in places up through there. So that would be the road that we would use these funds on if we can get them. So I will entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to pass resolution number 2020-05, a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for the fiscal year 2021 to the New Mexico Department of Transportation Municipal Arterial Program, funds for street and drainage improvements within Edgewood, New Mexico.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. What criteria is used to choose what we apply for?
First and foremost, that on the map, it connects two state roads. So this would be like 344 and 14, or
Okay.
yeah, 14 would be the first one up there. You do got some other roads along the way. And the second would be, basically staff looks at the condition of them. Norton has been after us now for some time to try to do something up there on that. It's getting some pretty bad places in it. And he thought try to give it some upgrade.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
I just had one other question. So is it drainage as well, or just, are we looking at like?
It's mostly just the
updating?
surface.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the last time I think that we actually addressed the issues on Frost Road was almost 10 years ago now.
It's been a while, yeah.
So the last time we put MAP funds into Frost Road, it was well received, and it is high time.
A lot of people use that road. We've got a motion and a second. Ready for the vote? Start here. Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, counsel. That brings us to the next one. This is an IFB, invitation for bids, and it's to get into the wastewater treatment plant and install those screens at the headworks. Mr. Torres, you have anything to add to that?
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is
You're right.
for the concrete drying pad, the permanent solution, yes. So yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, currently we do have that NOV, and with respect to the drying bed, we have a temporary solution in place which has that pond liner with dirt on top of it that NMED approved as a temporary solution. This would be the permanent fix to it, which would put a permanent concrete drying bed in. Now granted, we're actually not using the drying beds anymore because we're wasting directly into that dump trailer that you authorized us to purchase and hauling it directly to the landfill. So, but this will just be a contingency, so if for whatever reason the landfill's closed like they were when we first got the permit where they were changing over and we need a place to store it, it'll be on a permanent solution, so it won't, the potential for it to go into the soil won't happen. There'll be I almost want to say it's like a drain and a pump taking it back to the plant, so that any fluids or liquids that drain out from the waste will be returned to the plant. And this would just authorize us to go out for bid to construct it.
Yep, I have a couple questions. First, do we have, I know this was part of the NOV, part of the PER, and part of the tech memo, all had this particular item on there. Do we have like an estimated cost of what, I mean, we just found out we got $915,000. Any idea, is this going to take all of it, part of it?
Mayor, Council, so to answer your question, so we did receive, and I don't remember offhand, $660,000 last year for wastewater treatment plants and capital outlay. We also have the 600, I don't remember off the top of my head the amount, the 600 some amount from the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund. When that one actually is pledged for the screens, I think we'll take this one out. It's out of the $600,000 from last year's capital outlay award. The engineer's estimate on this is $130,000. We'll see what the bids come in at.
Okay, so what other,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I believe we should have a motion before we continue discussion.
Oh, okay. I'll take a
Well,
motion.
Just
we
a
don't-
procedural thing.
we don't just ask questions before we make a motion? I mean,
Go ahead, Counselor, you already had your question.
okay. So then the other thing is this the last item on the notice of violation
Mayor, Council,
that needs to be addressed?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay.
So the sprinkler system is up and running. It was pressure tested, and now that the weather's warm, we're utilizing it. NMED approved that design, and James, Joe, and Mike were able to get that one in the ground earlier, or end of last year, beginning of this year. So that one's up and running, and I believe everything else is taken care of. I think we have a contract operator. He's currently assessing the plant. Once we get his full assessment, I'd like to maybe bring a report to you guys and kind of give you an update of where they are and what they're planning to do. Likewise with Bohannon Houston, who's doing the designs for the improvements of the plant, to bring an update for that. But right now, we don't have anything solid. Our biggest priority when we signed Bohannon Houston was to take care of the NOV issues, which was this concrete drying bed. And we had the design ready in December, and we were just waiting for NMED to approve it and authorize us to go out.
Okay. I guess my last question is, it doesn't really have to do with this, but so are we using that sprinkler much, or are we using most of the water to water the roads right now?
Mayor, Council, so right now we're using the sprinkler system. That's what our contract operator basically wants to test it out and see how well it works and how well it performs.
Okay, thank you.
Entertain that motion now, Counselor Abrams.
I move that we approve an advertisement for bid for a concrete pad at the wastewater treatment plant. It's actually a lot longer than that.
Yeah, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve issuing an invitation to bid for a concrete pad at the wastewater treatment plant. Start down there, Counselor Abraham,
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo,
Aye.
Counselor Holly,
Aye.
and Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Calendar review. Next council meeting will be March 25th, 2020. That'll be 2 weeks from tonight. At that meeting, same one on the 25th, we don't have it in here, but that's when we're going to have our public hearing on ordinance 2020-01, ordinance of the town of Edgewood authorizing sale of real property owned by the town, which was formerly utilized as the town hall and which is located 1911 Historic Route 66, Edgewood, New Mexico. Yeah, as far as with coronavirus and that, if we get any developments, anything different, you may be hearing from us about scheduling meetings or something like that, so
Mr. Mayor?
close to your computers. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, and we are anticipating a special meeting
Yes.
Yes,
on the
Mayor and Council,
19th?
so we're expecting, we'll be issuing the posting tomorrow for the special meeting. It's going to be Thursday, March 19th at 9 a.m.
Okay. And that's a closed session to discuss legal issues?
Yes, Mayor and Council.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, my comment on canceling meetings in the future, when we cancel meetings, then we just end up having more special meetings, so that just kind of messes with my schedule terribly bad. I would rather have 2 scheduled meetings than 3 unscheduled meetings, which is almost what we're going to end up with this month. So that's my comment.
Okay.
Mayor, I did have a comment on the public hearing. Just wanted to let the public know that this is probably one of your first opportunities to give comment about what will be done with the old town hall. I think this is the first time it's on the agenda for you all to give feedback to us about if you would like this sale to go through or not. And that's where Town Hall was before, at 1911 Route 66. So if anybody has any opinions or comments for me, I would appreciate hearing them. Thank you.
Next item is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion on that.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and adjourned, made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned at